Good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you very much for joining us for another episode of these masterclasses, which we have come up with typically for our teenage students, and that's why it is known as Teen Mental Wellness Masterclasses series. This is the final masterclass of this series. So, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. As you all know, that we have a pleasure of having Dr. Anantika Tehlani with us today, who's the speaker of this evening. Welcome, Dr. Anantika. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So, the topic of today, Dr. Anantika, today's masterclass, as you know, is unplugged stress, beating exam pressure, and digital overload, is something which I think this masterclass is very much suiting our students. Everyone who's here, we have many students, parents, and educators with us today. So, why I think this is the appropriate time, though I understand that we are moving towards the board examinations now, and most of these students are very, very busy. Teenage students I'm talking about, with their examinations, upcoming examinations, board examinations, and they already feel pressure. So that's why I think we are exactly on time. The topic which we are covering today is actually going to help them with the exam pressure they are feeling nowadays.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, Dr. Anantika, as we all know, I would begin with this question that the digital, the excessive screen time, or you may call it digital overload, is it actually affecting as everyone says, not only the mental health, but the physical health, and also it is affecting the relations of these teenage students with their parents. What do you say about that, Dr.
Right. So when you do talk about digital overload as a mechanism, when you talk about digital overload as a concept, to very simply put it, it is again overstimulating our nervous system or overloading it with information that probably the brain cannot handle. Definitely, we do agree that it impacts and disrupts the mental health, but we cannot really negate the role physical health per se plays over here, or how physical health per se might be affected when it actually comes to talking about how digital overload might actually be totally hijacking the entire lives of these students. So primarily when it comes to children, there is a lot of disrupted sleep patterns that you might notice with these students, because they are constantly on their phones. A lot of times you might also see that children might be reporting a lot of poor posture also, right? There would be difficulty in terms of them not being able to sort of walk properly, or having a very curved spine. You might see this is also a trend that is being noticed. A lot of times you might also see a lot of vision strain happening. They might be wearing specs from a very early on in their life. And definitely there is reduced physical activity, because they are so hooked and glued to the phone that it becomes almost impossible to get them to the park. It is again a very big luxury for parents to be able to take them to the park if students themselves are ready per se to actually spend time with nature, or actually venture out of their rooms. Coupled with all of this, you might also see a lot of rising obesity. There is weakened immunity, all of these things. And I think the most important thing that you might see with kids who might be growing up with their phones, there is a lot of delayed motor development. We cannot really ignore the role of that. So childhood per se is becoming extremely sedentary in nature. So yeah.
All right, we would, I think, during your presentation, talk about the solutions for sure. As we all acknowledge the problem here. So I would introduce my speaker. Before that, once again, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Tulika. I am the founder and CEO of my company called Edushire. Though this is the final session of our series of teen mental wellness masterclasses, but we are coming up with many more such helpful sessions which are addressing many important issues, not only for our students, but parents and teachers. And, we would pick up many important topics in the upcoming master classes. I would talk about that during the last, span of this master class. So, yes, let me introduce my speaker today, Dr. Anantika Tehlani. We are, very, very happy to have you here discussing this important topic today: unplug stress, beating exam pressure. Can we have the visual, please? Yeah. So Dr. Anantika Tehlani is an assistant professor and RCI licensed clinical psychologist with extensive experience in adolescent and adult mental health. She has worked with individuals facing a wide spectrum of psychological challenges, including ADHD, a borderline personality disorder, BPD, depression, anxiety, and trauma-related issues. Her clinical expertise lies in making complex psychological concepts accessible through practical, evidence-based strategies that resonate deeply with her audience. Beyond clinical practice, Dr. Anantika has designed and delivered postgraduate level modules on advanced psychological themes such as motivational interviewing, cognitive and language development, qualitative research methods, and clinical assessments. Her teaching approach blends academic rigor with interactive engagement, empowering learners to translate knowledge into real world impact. So, Dr. Anantika, welcome once again. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, the stage is all yours. Yeah, thank you. This, once again, one important information which I wanted to share with my audience is that the pattern of the entire session is like that we could have a presentation by Dr. Anantika for almost 60 minutes, which would be followed by a 30 minutes Q&A. I would request you all to please write your questions in the question and answer session, and that would be followed by some of the video questions which we would love to have, typically from our students, because this topic is very much referring to our students who are going to appear for the board examinations or otherwise. So please come ahead, raise your hands, the parents, also the educators who are willing to come for the video questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Anantika. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very good evening to one and all present here. I hope my screen is visible. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So the topic that we're going to talk about today is of extreme importance. It is of, as Tulika has already mentioned a lot of times, the topic for today is unplugged stress, beating exam pressure, and digital overload. So as you can see, this presentation per se is going to incorporate two major concepts of exam pressure and digital overload. So it's divided into two parts accordingly. Now, it becomes really important for us to be able to also understand what stress particularly is, right? Before we actually delve into the concept of exam stress, it becomes very, very important for us to understand the major basic understanding of stress. So it can be defined as a state of worry or any kind of mental tension caused by any difficult situation that arises in our life, right? So when you talk about stress, it is a very natural human response. It is not something out of the world. It is not something that you have to take it to the level of a disorder for you to be able to perceive stress. All of us have daily hassles. All of us face stress day in and day out. But then when that stress becomes chronic, when that stress moves to a level wherein you might need some psychological intervention, that is another part of the story. But primarily when you talk about it, it is not something that would require a lot of intervention per se on the daily level, but it is something that is a very normal human reaction. It is a very normal human response, right? So why I am using the word normal over here is because we have to learn how to be able to normalize these concepts for us to be able to navigate through it also, right? So everyone per se will experience stress in some or the other level. The degree, the intensity, the time, all of it we will be discussing in the later parts of the presentation. As you can see over here, there are certain physical symptoms of stress, there are certain emotional and mental symptoms. A lot of times we might not be able to label these emotions also, right? You might be exhausted, you might be having headaches, you might be having dizziness, you might be having any kind of digestive problems, there could be aches, pains, right? There could be any kind of high BP, muscle tension, weakened immune system. All of these things can manifest in the form of stress. You might not know that this is stress, but these could be certain physical symptoms that you could see in your body, which could be as a result of stress, right? Similarly, when you talk about the emotional and mental symptoms, there could be any kind of irritability. You might get angry very very easily. There could be symptoms of low mood. There could be probably you might not be very very interested in activities you might have been interested earlier. Now you don't find a lot of interest in it, right? There could be fatigue, there could be any kind of sadness, there could be energy levels could go down, right? You might start eating a lot, or you might start completely not eating. There could be excessive sleep, or there could be no sleep. All of these things could be manifestations of stress, right? So again, as I mentioned, again I am reiterating it, that it might not be that you might have to sort of label this symptom, or you might have to label this emotion, but then these could be certain manifestations or certain ways in which you could see stress reflecting in your body, right? Primarily when you talk about how does your brain actually respond to stress, right? This is again very very important, for the simple reason that there are certain brain areas that we have to be very clear about, because these terms will be coming again. Okay, so I just want you to remember this slide, because we will be coming back to this slide again, right? There are certain areas of the brain which are activated primarily a little bit more when there is a kind of certain kind of a pressure or certain kind of a stressful situation. If the if there is any kind of stress available in the environment, what happens over here? There are three major brain structures which are of extreme importance here, as you can see on your screens: the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and the hippocampus. Okay, so the amygdala per se is the alarm system in the body. All kinds of emotional reactions are processed by the amygdala in the body. All kinds of cognitive patterns in the body per se, your thinking, your language, your decision making, problem solving, all of these are managed by your prefrontal cortex, and primarily your memory systems are managed by your hippocampus, right? For my students who are present over here, you definitely might have heard about the cerebrum, cerebellum, and the medulla, right? These are certain specialized structures inside your cerebrum, cerebellum, and the medulla, right? So please remember about your alarm system, your thinking brain, and your memory system, right? So primarily when it comes to talking about what exactly is exam stress, right? We did understand the concept of stress. Now it becomes important to understand what is exam stress. So a stress or any kind of stressful situation would be your body's reaction or your brain's reaction to any kind of hassle or any kind of problem or any kind of challenge that comes your way when you are not in a position to probably handle that, right? So when you talk about exam stress, it is again a specific type of performance anxiety. It might be that you might not be stressed on other days of your life, but primarily when there are exams, when you have any kind of viva in school, when you have any kind of practical exam in school, or when you have any kind of theory exam, or you are probably scared of any particular subject, in those times or during those times, you might see your body reacting to stress in the ways that I mentioned earlier. There could be headache, dizziness, all the factors that I spoke about earlier, right? A lot of students have come to me who have reported that they cannot really eat during stress, right? Or they lose sleep during exams, right? So it is a particular type of an exam anxiety, or a particular type of a performance anxiety which comes your way when you perceive that particular threat to be, or when you perceive that particular exam to be a threatening situation. Okay, like I do not have the resources in my environment to be able to handle that stress, hence I am having these kind of reactions from my body. Okay, I could either completely withdraw from the situation, or I would probably spend a lot of hours cramming the syllabus and still thinking that, oh, I'm forgetting whatever I am learning, right? So these could be two various kind of reactions your body might give out, that is known as a fight or flight response. Okay, fight response may you would actually face the situation head on as it comes your way. Okay, 5 days later I have the exam, so I will study and I will complete the syllabus. I will make a planner, or I will make a timetable, or I will structure my syllabus in such a way that I am able to complete all the 5 chapters that are there in my syllabus. Okay, or the flight response on the other hand is actually running away from the situation. I don't want to face it, I don't know how I'll cover it, so I'll probably go off to sleep. Okay, or I'll probably just completely withdraw, I'll procrastinate, I'll just take the situation to the last moment and see how it happens. Okay, so that is your flight response. So there are also certain hormones present in your body, some of them that I'll be speaking about. These are the major hormones that are activated when there is stress in the body. Okay, the two hormones are known as adrenaline and cortisol. Okay, these are basically the hormones that would lead to all kinds of physical symptoms of stress. Okay, increased heart rate, nausea, chest pain, you might have tense muscles. All of these hormones will be responsible for these physical reactions. Okay, so in small doses, if this is happening, that in a daily life situation, if I'm happening like before this presentation, if I was like a little stressed, that is normal, that is okay, right? So we also have to understand that stress will help a person perform also. Okay, so stress will also be of two types, something known as eustress, something known as distress. Okay, eustress is the good kind of stress. Okay, and I am having eustress only because I am attached to the situation, only because I am attached to this particular let's say if you have an exam to give tomorrow, it's of your favorite subject. Okay, you will be able to manage, but still there is some form of stress because you want the teacher to like you, you want the teacher to give you good marks, you want the teacher to give you praise you in front of your friends in class. Okay, so you are motivated to study. Okay, but you are little also you are stressed, that is eustress. Okay, on the other hand, if you are having any kind of physical symptoms before your maths exams, okay, if you're having any kind of vomiting, if let's say, or you have stopped eating before the exam, that is distress. Okay, so eustress will help you perform better. So it's not like that if you are noticing signs of stress in your body, if they are at a manageable level, then that is great, that is good. Okay, so if it is in a normal situation, it can actually help you perform better. Please remember this, right? Is the speed okay so far? If you guys could just give me a thumbs up, that would be great. Okay, thank you. Right, thanks. So common signs and symptoms per se, particularly when you talk about exam stress, there could be physical symptoms of headaches, nausea, rapid breathing. I have already mentioned this. When you talk about emotional reactions, there could be anxiety, that is fear of the unknown, I not knowing what might actually happen or what might actually lie ahead of me, how much marks am I gonna get. So a lot of times students also come to me and they say that I keep calculating the marks that I would get in my exam, right? So they have the question paper in front of them, they will always keep calculating how much exam they will how much marks they would get in the exam, right? That's a very, very common phenomenon you might find in students who are actually serious about whatever they might be doing. On the other hand, there could be students who might be barely passing, they will also sit and calculate that if I will actually pass in the exam or not. Okay, both of these are parts of anxiety only. Okay, there could be irritability, you might get angry on small situations, you might get angry on small things. Okay, there could be hopelessness, that is I am going to fail, no matter whatever I do, I am going to fail this exam. Okay, I don't know how to manage, I don't know how to navigate through this entire situation. Hopelessness is a very, very common phenomenon you might find in students. Lack of motivation, again the flight response over here. And when you talk about cognitive abilities, I will also be talking a little bit about cognitive factors in detail a little while later. So when you talk about cognitive symptoms of stress, you might see there is a lot of difficulty concentrating these individuals might face. Okay, memory blanks, there is a lot of negative self-talk, there is a lot of comparison that happens. Okay, so when you talk about memory blanks, when you talk about difficulty concentrating, over here you might see that whatever you might have learned, okay, so rote learning that we talk about this concept, you might see that your teachers have given you some kind of answers or model answers to probably prepare. You read the entire chapter, you read those model answers, you solve those question papers, and at the end you see that you're forgetting everything when you close the book. Okay, that is again coming from a factor of that you are stressed about the situation, hence there is difficulty concentrating, hence there are memory blanks that might happen, and that is going to lead to a vicious cycle of you talking negatively about yourself, that my friend is scoring so much marks, I am not able to do it. You might see that a lot of negative statements or a lot of not statements might be there. I will not be able to do it, mujhse nahi hoga, or I, no matter how much I perform, I will never be enough. Okay, so these are certain statements you might notice in children, and if that is happening, then I think it's time to talk about it a little bit more in detail. Okay, comparison, comparing yourself to others might also happen. Comparing, parents might also be in a position to probably compare their children with other students or other kids. Okay, I will be talking about this in detail as well, because it is an extremely important component for that matter. Now moving on, if you could just give me a small snippet or probably write down on your chat box, on a scale of 1 to 10, how stressed are you about your exams? The students over here, and the parents might also write down how stressed are you about your children's exams, and teachers might also write down how stressed are you about your students' exams in class. It would just be good to have some answers. The upcoming boards or any kind of exam that you find important. Okay, 7, 10, 8. Okay, right. Okay, I think we have a couple of answers. Right, 10, a lot of 10s as well. Okay. Right. Okay, moving on. Now again, the slide that I showed you about stress, let's talk about how does the brain respond to exam stress primarily. Okay, now when you talk about exam stress, you might see that your alarm system, known as your sympathetic nervous system, okay, responsible for stress reactions in your body, that dominates, right? That is something that will actually be of major importance over here. Sorry. Right. So in your alarm system or your sympathetic nervous system is activated, which is going to lead to all these stressful reactions. Okay. So your thinking brain, that is your prefrontal cortex, that goes completely offline. Your memory recall drops, that is your hippocambus's ability to actually retain information goes down, right? your emotional reactivity increases, which is why these memory blanks, which is why these not statements, which is why these feelings of hopelessness will also increase. Okay, so this is the mechanism of how the brain responds to exam stress primarily. Okay, what does research primarily say about all of this, about exam stress? Chronic stress, it will impair memory consolidation. It's not only about this one exam or this one exam that defines or describes everything that you do. If you are chronically stressed about everything, I've had a lot of clients or patients come to me and tell me that whenever there are exams that come to our life, so I am okay the entire time, I am okay the entire year, but whenever I have to sit for exams, it just messes my entire system. I am not able to do anything. This person is chronically stressed, and this person chronically has this feeling of exam anxiety, right? This person is definitely going to have problems with memory consolidation when they grow up. That is a short thing, right? Being able to actually retain information, being able to actually sort of come up with information, or being able to actually retain information, that is something that is going to be extremely difficult for this person later in life. High cortisol, that is the hormone that I spoke about, will reduce concentration. If the cortisol levels are increased in the brain, it is definitely going to reduce concentration abilities in this individual. And stress will reduce academic performance even in high ability students. You might see a lot of times that kids who might be doing really well in school, probably kids who might be doing really well in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 10th grade aate or probably 11th grade, 12th grade aate, you might see there is a sudden dip in their performance, right? How does that happen? Because this person has been chronically stressed over time, because this person has been having difficulty in terms of how they have not been able to navigate through that stressful situation, or probably they do not have help available in their environment, or probably do not have anybody who is a trusted individual per se jiske saath they can actually go and talk about these situations. That is something that is impairing their ability to be actually navigate through this entire stressful situation. Okay, so even high ability students will have these problems. We cannot really ignore these high ability students ki theek hai, this individual is doing well or this student is doing great in school, so we can just not take care of this person's mental health, right? Again, specialists and psychologists have discussed a strong relationship between the learning process and the phenomenon of anxiety. Research and studies conducted on students have shown that a significant portion of them performed below their actual capabilities during assessments due to psychological pressure and experience of stress during testing. Okay, so let's say if you make all these students sit in a room, like let's say 100 students sit in a room, and you probably provide them a test, but then you don't really give them very clear instructions. Okay, or probably you give them a very very difficult math test to do, because generally students are very very afraid of math, so you give them math tests to do, and because you have already created an aura of stress in the environment, you have already given them probably a very difficult paper that does not really match their standard, you will definitely see there is a dip in their performance, right? This condition is known as exam anxiety, manifests through visible signs of stress and disturbance. Now, when you talk about the sources of pressure, right? When you talk about where is this stress actually coming from, definitely the brain is responding to this stress, but where is it actually emerging from? Okay, so in psychology we have this very very common concept of trying to understand the root cause of problems, right? Or to be able to understand a problem, where is it actually emerging from? Okay, so primarily I've tried to divide this into two parts. For students, where is it coming from? For parents, where is it coming from? Okay, so primarily when you talk about students per se, there is this board exam pressure culture, coaching institutes who have been identified as identity factories of students. I've tried to come up with this term. It's not any psychological term, known as the Sharma ji ka beta comparison syndrome, where we talk about comparison culture, the need JE fear loops, and the result based worth conditioning. I'll be talking about all of this in detail. And primarily for parents, this secure future, or this dream that every parent has about their children, which definitely is very very valid, I am not really negating the role of parents having this kind of a pressure for their or having this kind of an ideology or this ideal life that they imagine for their students, for their children. It is absolutely great, but then that a lot of times propagates a lot of anxiety in these children. Okay, so again, the log kya kahenge mindset, the career prestige pressure, and the intergenerational survival fears. I'll talk about all of this also, right? um uh, sorry. So when you talk about the comparison culture primarily, okay, so in India, board exams are not treated like assessments. They are treated like life verdicts, at least in our times. When I was sitting for my board exams, it was really different, really, really difficult. I'm sure times have changed right now. I am sure parents are much more sensitive when it comes to actually treating their children. But a lot of times, probably in rural India also, you might see these concepts, that a lot of pressure per se is applied on these children to actually, it's like a do or a die situation for these children. Okay, so children will a lot of times grow up hearing that 10th will describe your future, or 12th is going to decide your career, or marks will decide your worth, result will describe or decide your respect. This creates a lot of identity fusion. It's a beautiful term I came across while I was preparing for this, is that marks per se are not at any time right now indicative of your performance. Okay, they are all the time right now at this point in time indicative of your self-worth. So if you can see probably a child who is scoring 85% will feel like a failure in a classroom where the topper gets 98%. Why? Not because 85 is bad, not because it's something that does not really, for the child it might be great marks, but the first question that the parent might ask the child is like, how much did XYZ get, right? Or how much did that person get? So let's try imagining this one scenario wherein this child comes and tells you that I scored a 86 in my test and out of 100, and I am really happy with my marks. Okay, just the next question the parent would ask is, ठीक है, वो 85 तो ठीक है, whatever you have scored is great. How much did this person get? What is the first emotion that comes in the child's mind? That my parent did not really acknowledge my marks. My parent went on to ask me, how much did this other person get? And the moment my parent gets to know that this person, probably the topper in my class, got a 98, what happens? This loop gets created in the mind of the child, wherein this comparison culture per se has destroyed the entire ideology, the kind of with which the child entered the situation, and then it just goes all down the drain, right? So 85% is not bad when you look at it relatively. Individually, if you look at it, it's not bad marks. But because comparison culture comes into the picture, it just really messes up the entire system. I hope I'm clear. This is again another concept that I came across. Comparison, right? It is a national sport in the country if you try to see. Children grow up hearing, you look at your cousin, you look at your neighbor, you look at that child, why can't you be like them? Okay, he's doing so much. He's also going swimming, he's also going dancing, then he's also singing, he's also going for sports lesson, and he's topping in the class, right? So what is the loop that's created in the mind of the child? That I am not enough, right? Or there is chronic self-doubt that you will be able to see. There is a lot of the kind of personality development when we talk about in children, there is a lot of low self-concept that is developed in this child, right? Imposter syndrome, very, very important component. Imposter syndrome, it's a psychological term, but to put it a little simply for you, is that this person, when they grow up, okay, for somebody who is suffering from any kind of imposter syndrome, will always have this idea that whatever I am doing is not enough, or whatever credits that I have, whatever achievements that I have, I don't deserve this. हो सकता है that by fluke I might have just gotten it, I just got lucky, hence I got it. So this person does not have a very solid self-concept, which in turn is leading to imposter syndrome, right? There is a lot of internalized inferiority this child might be suffering from also, right? That they might be having a very tough exterior, that okay, whatever I am doing is good, but at the end these children will end up in psychotherapy, and definitely we don't want that, right? Moving on. Coaching institutes, again, as identity factors primarily for children from the science background. This, it's again the identity fusion that I already spoke about: needs student, JE aspirant, CUET candidate, topper batch, or ranker material. If you guys might have seen this series that came on Netflix known as Quota Factory, you might have seen the kind of pressure it creates on the children, or the kind of cramming that these children do, or the identity fusion has been so beautifully explained in that series. If not, please watch it. It's amazing and would actually help you understand what the kind of sad business coaching institutes are running in this country. So a 14-year-old person might not know their rank, but they might not know their rank or their dream, as in they only know their rank or their dream, but do not have any idea about what they like, what their hobbies are, what makes them happy, or what is actually their personality per se. That is not something, if you try having a conversation with a 14-year-old, I bet you they will be in a position to primarily talk more about ranks or careers with you in comparison to what makes them happy. If not, you can just try it and test for yourselves. Moving on, this is a very, very important slide because I've had real life cases come to me, and there have been kids who've spoken to me about it, and it's really heartbreaking to sit with these students and actually listen to them, because parents over here are the first people who need counseling in this situation. Teachers are the ones who need counseling more in this situation, primarily when it comes to this slide. If you see how this has been sort of made, reality is, if a student gets, let's say, 95 in class, and this person becomes the second best person in the class, okay, this person comes second in class, in that situation, this person comes and tells their parent, this is situation 1, that they scored a 95 in, let's say, their pre-boards, and pre-boards 1, then pre-boards 2 happened. This child per se was not well, and then their marks dipped to, let's say, 85 or 84, okay. But what exactly happened in the first scenario? The parents were really happy. The parents were like, okay, my child will be able to perform. Teachers are also, pushing this child only to, that this child will bring the result of the school merit list when this child is going to come, and things like that. Okay, pre-boards 1 mein, this is a scenario. Pre-boards 2 comes, and this child scores a 84 because the child was not well, so their marks dips. Okay, what happens then? Love becomes conditional. They come to their parent. The parent is like, okay, you haven't been able to do, you haven't been able to, match our expectations, and we just expected you to be so great in whatever you do, but what have you done? So they have actually just made the identity of the child as their marks. What is the narrative that is developed in the child's mind? That I am only lovable if I excel. I am only lovable if I get the marks. My parents, my teachers will not give me any kind of attention if I do not perform well. How do you expect this child to be able to have a personality of their own that is anything beyond marks, right? So love per se becomes very conditional. The praise is only there when marks are high. The parents will go absolutely silent. This is extremely, extremely dysfunctional what parents do in terms of giving the silent treatment to children, right? Silence when some marks will drop, or there is attention only when the child is performing. Okay, you might also see that there is also a lot of withdrawal you might see from the parents when the child is actually struggling, that tum apne se kar lo, you go and do whatever you have to do, we are not your parents, or we didn't think that you would go so non-serious. Okay, when love becomes conditional, anxiety will become permanent. Why? Because the child is always walking on eggshells in this situation, right? The child is only thinking that I am only worthy of love if I excel, or if there is always an if narrative that is created. Okay, if you can see the orange box over here, I am lovable when I perform. What is the psychological impact over here? There is performance anxiety, there is fear of failure, there is fear of disappointing the parents, there is attachment insecurity, there is emotional suppression. This child will never be in a position to come and talk to you about how they might be feeling. Why? Because they are so afraid of your reactions, right? हो सकता है that you might go completely silent. It might be that you might not be in a position to actually respond to their emotions. Why? Because you are definitely so consumed by just the marks that you forget who your child is beyond those marks, right? So again, a little bit of biology to help you understand how does the stress cycle actually play out. Okay. So overthinking per se, this is again from the child's perspective. What happens, or what if I fail, what if I disappoint everyone, what if I ruin my future? Again, the anxiety part of it will come from the what if part. Okay, so this overthinking is also known as rumination. It's going to come back later for you also. So this rumination per se is a very, very important concept, or a very, very important precursor for any kind of anxious situation. Okay, it's basically the perfect recipe for anxiety, that is overthinking, right? Is the cognitive spiral phase that the person gets into, wherein rumination will increase anxiety and depression, as you can see about the research evidences that I have quoted for you over here. Repetitive negative thinking will worsen emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is being responsible or being able to manage your emotions. Okay, repetitive negative thinking is going to worsen me not being in a position to actually manage my emotions in a way that it should be managed. Okay, rumination will also maintain a lot of stress disorders. If there is a lot of prefrontal cortex overload, your logic will definitely weaken and catastrophization will increase. Catastrophization is thinking about the worst possible scenario in every situation. That is catastrophizing a situation to its extreme, right? Avoidance, again, talking about avoidance, what exactly happens if you see that a child is probably failing in the exam? Okay, or if the child is probably not getting the marks that they think that they should be getting, or for xyz reasons they are not able to sort of perform in school, what happens then? Okay, there is procrastination, that is pushing deadlines up till the last minute. There is unnecessarily doom scrolling, there is unnecessarily sleeping, there is escaping behavior, there is numbing situations, there are distraction behaviors. Okay, these are all freeze responses. Please make sure of this slide, because a lot of times teachers might be very, very quick to probably judge, and it's not their fault. It is nobody's fault over here. Or it might be the parents might be too quick to judge their children, saying that you're just being lazy, you don't want to study, hence you're making excuses, you don't want to go to school, hence you're making these excuses, or you are scrolling the phone late till night. I have given you the device to probably just use it for your assignments, but you are sitting and playing video games over there. Okay, it's just that we are coming from a place of unawareness, and it's great for all of you who have joined this session. It's just a very, very great initiative on your part to be able to actually sit with me here and patiently listen to me. But then these could be certain various things that you might notice in your kids, right, both in school and at home, that these might be certain behavioral manifestations, but this is not coming from any kind of laziness. This is only freeze responses, because the body thinks that it does not deserve whatever it is doing. All the imposter syndrome and insecurity feelings I spoke about earlier, it is all connected with each other. Okay, so you might see that these kids might be stressed, but they don't know how to handle this stress, and it is being manifested in the form of a distraction behavior. Okay, so there is something known as a polyvagal theory. It's something we use in trauma therapy, wherein stress will lead to freeze or shut down responses. Okay, or if you see that avoidance is just the nervous system trying to protect itself, right? Procrastination again is emotional regulation failure, not time management, right? This person does not know how to handle what is going on in their environment, hence they are just procrastinating. Sleeping, let's say for example, you might see a lot of kids might sleep for hours at stretch. That is only happening because they do not know how to handle this situation, hence it is a form of denial that is happening, right? Avoidance, if you can see the last box over here, it is the nervous system saying that I cannot handle this much stress, or I cannot handle this much stimulation around me, hence I will just go off to sleep. or probably you might see a lot of numbing behaviors by kids, wherein they might be watching TV hours at stretch. Kal exam hai, today they are sitting and watching TV. This is not coming from a place of unseriousness. Okay, this is not any non-serious attitude, but something that the child does not know how to process per se, right? Moving on. Right, so just a sec. Again, this is also something that is very, very important. It is known as the emotional collapse phase. These are all parts of stress, or how probably stress would actually manifest. Again, the kind of narrative that the child particularly puts over here is the inner dialogue is, I am useless, I wasted time, I am lazy, I am a failure, I can't do anything, right? Okay, so this creates a very shame-based identity thinking. So because there is so much guilt, why? Because they wasted so much time. In the previous slide, if you see over here, there is procrastination that's happening, there is escaping, there is numbing. A child wasted the entire time. What happens after that? There is guilt. Okay, that I wasted all the time, I am useless, I could have done better, now I am not able to do anything. That creates a sense of panic in the child, right? So if you look at some research evidences over here, shame will increase avoidance and withdrawal. Self-criticism will activate threat systems in the brain. Your amygdala will be extremely reactive. It's going to be extremely responsive in this situation, and the negative self-concept or the negative loop will continuously just try to paralyze you. Okay, lack of self-compassion again increases a lot of stress vulnerability. Okay, so me not being kind to myself, me not being in a position to actually look at myself from a kind lens will also create a lot of vulnerability for stress, or it is the breeding ground for stress, wherein I am not in a position to be kind to myself, right? Now this is the visual model of exam stress. Stress leading to overthinking or rumination, which leads to avoidance, which leads to guilt, panic, back to stress. Okay, I hope I am clear with this. Moving on, how do we beat this exam pressure? What can we do to actually make sure that this exam pressure is something that does not really cloud our life so much that we do not have anything else to look forward to? Moving on, if you can see, you can plan ahead. If you know that you have your board exams in Feb, or you have your board exams starting in the middle of Feb, you know how to chunk your syllabus. Okay, this is something that's known as the Pomodoro technique. It is very, very important, or it is a very, very famous, extremely backed by research. This technique known as when you study for 25 minutes, then take a break for 5 minutes. Again, come back to studying for 5 minutes, then come take a break for 5 minutes. Okay, let's see what the example says over here. Instead of revising all the history chapter, do chapter 3 timelines, 2-page notes. This reduces where do I start. Okay, it shows that this planning per se will cut your anxiety by 30%. If I know that I am in a position to probably chunk my syllabus, you can put a timer near to you, or probably the alarm clock that you have. You can just study for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, take a walk, come back and start again. Okay, that is going to help you cut down your anxiety as per research by almost 30% at a stretch. Okay, second is breathing and movement. I cannot stress the importance of how important breath work is. Primarily wherein you are seeing that your heart is racing, or your mind goes blank, or your stress spikes, you can try this concept of this 4-7-8 breathing, wherein you can inhale for 4 seconds through your nose, hold for 7 seconds, then exhale for 8 seconds through your mouth. Okay, this has to be repeated 4 times. This is something that will really help you regulate and calm down your nervous system. Okay, pairing it with a 10-minute walk, movement releases endorphins, which is the happy hormone in the body, which will help you naturally lower your cortisol levels. Okay, and again, the importance of kindness or positive self-talk, I cannot stress upon it enough, wherein you can catch your negative loops, wherein you might see students saying that I'm going to fail, and flip it to I have prepared enough, I have prepared as much as I could, whatever capability I had, I have done enough, let's see what happens. Okay, or I can handle the rest. Again, this is a very, very powerful technique, the step 3 positive talk, wherein you can write down 3 daily wins on a sticky note. Okay, this will also help you be aware of the good things during your day, right? So let's say if you were able to do a math problem that you were stuck with for a very long time, probably one concept in geography that you were not able to understand, and probably one English problem that you were not able to do, now you are able to understand all the concepts of grammar, history, and maths. Okay, what will happen then? You will be in a position to also see that, okay, life is not so bad. It's not like I am failing at everything that I am doing. I am one day at a time moving ahead with my syllabus. Okay, that's also going to help you create a lot of confidence within your own self. Okay, fourth one, cannot stress the importance of this, how important sleep and eating are. You can aim for 8 hours of sleep. Nahi ho pa raha, if you're not able to do it, probably 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours during the exam time, it's okay. Okay, do not pull off all-nighters during your exam. Tomorrow you have the exam, today entire night you are sitting and studying. You will not be in a position to remember as much as you would if you had had a proper night of sleep. If I had to give you one example from my life only, when I sat for the biggest exam of my life, that is one competitive exam I sat for, wherein I had 800 students sit for that same exam, and there were just 10 seats for that competitive exam. Previous entire day I slept. I am not kidding. I think I just studied for 2 hours. That was just the last revision I did. I slept for the entire day. That was, again, you could call it an escape behavior, or you could also call it that I rested properly. I cleared that exam. I came second all India in that exam. Okay, so, and this is not something that I am just saying to brag about myself, but this is a very, very real life thing I am talking about, to not stress, as in I cannot stress enough how important sleep is, or it can actually do wonders, because it helps you consolidate your memory. It helps you consolidate or capture or gather the concepts that are of extreme importance, which will help you probably write better answers in the exam the next day. Okay, brain booster, certain nuts, certain omega-3s, berries, which provide you antioxidants, dark chocolate, mood lifting, all of these things you can definitely do. It is really, really going to help you. Avoiding caffeine, that is tea and coffee, post 3 p.m. If you have to stretch it, let's say not beyond 5 p.m. Okay, no chai or coffee beyond 5 p.m. That is really, really going to help you. Again, the brain systems that I spoke about in the earlier slides, it's going to really help you consolidate all these brain systems, and your brain is going to work in a really, really fast condition for you to be able to retain concepts better. Okay, rewarding yourself after a study block, do something fun but quick and non-digital, right? Let's say you can probably listen to your favorite music on your radio, if you do have a radio at home, or probably you could probably go for a 10-minute walk. You could probably do a 10-minute dance break, listen to or have a chat with your friend. And what exactly happens over here is that your brain will really be in a position to reward itself. You will be in a position to look at yourself from a kinder lens, and probably your habits per se will also increase over here. I'll explain the concept of dopamine. It might be a little beyond your time limit, but if we do have time, I'll come back to it. Okay. This is again a sample planner that you can create for yourself. Monday, if you can probably see how does Monday look like. The day is Monday, you have a study block, you probably do formulas and 10 math problems. After that, you do a 5-10 minute walk activity. Then you again come back to doing 10 problems. You speak kindly to yourself. You speak very, very gently to yourself. Whatever I am doing, let's take it step by step. Or if you see over here, I have prepared enough. I can probably see that there is progress over perfection. Okay. And then probably your nuts plus quick stretch. You can just have a look at this. This is how you can probably create your planner, which also includes all the five papers in your syllabus, the activities that you can do, your positive affirmations, and your fuel that you can probably provide to yourself. Okay. Now, what can you do before and the day of your exam? Your game plan for success. Before the day of the exam, please lightly review your material. Do not keep one entire chapter that this is the easiest chapter, so I will learn this chapter for the first time before 20th ko you have the exam, so 19th ko you will sit and learn that chapter. Please don't do that, okay? It's not going to be of any importance. So lightly reviewing everything that you have done. Let's say if you have 5 chapters or 6 chapters coming in your exam, you study all the chapters, space it properly, just lightly revise before the day of the exam. Do not cram, okay? Don't study all the 6 chapters together on the same day, because that's not going to help you. Pack your bag one day in advance, eat a healthy meal and relax, okay? Just take it slow. On the exam day, have a light breakfast. You arrive early, don't be late to your exam hall. Just take deep breaths, read the instructions on the paper carefully. I'm sure your teachers have stressed enough on this, but then again, I'm also doing it. If stuck, move on, return later, and trust your preparation, whatever you have done, okay? Sorry. Moving on, if you could probably just take a moment and think about this, how would a day without your phones look like? What do you think? You can probably answer this in the chat box. Take your time, think about it. Let's say if you did not have your phone one day in your hand, 24 hours without your phones, how would that look like? Okay, we have some answer. Cannot imagine. Yes. Peaceful day, very relaxing. Okay. First day of our lives. Okay. Relaxed. Okay. Relaxing. Okay. Most of you would say that it would be a relaxed day. You would have free time. Some of you say that it would be an empty day. Okay. Some of you say it will be a day without anxiety and stress. Some say that it would be a disturbing day, funny day. We will miss out on important instructions from school, but highly relaxing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay. Ample free time, no anxiety. That is great. For all of us, that means all of us are struggling with this one problem that might be of extreme importance, known as we are living in this notification mode, right? And there is so much digital overload that is happening, and my brain does not have any free time that we just mentioned about, right? So this is an example that you can read. I think I'll come back to it. When the world never switches off. So basically, digital overload is a concept when the brain is given more information than it can actually handle at one time. Okay, it's like if you probably look at a system or you look at a screen, it would be multiple tabs open at one time only, right? So I have so many tabs open, I don't know where to stop. I don't know where to actually, to be able to actually bring it to a halt. My brain will struggle to absorb and remember all the information, so learning will stop being effective. No matter how many tabs you have open, if you give your brain so much information, it will not really remember. A lot of times, if I probably have asked students who are sort of struggling with digital overload, you actually ask them what did they have for dinner last night, they are not in a position to remember it. Why? Because they were so glued to their screens, they were not mindful about what they had for dinner also, right? And as I also mentioned in the beginning of this, that a lot of times you might see vision problems, you might see a lot of strain in the eyes, you might see posture problems. All of these things are coming from a position of digital overload. Too much information makes your brain restless. You get distracted easily, forget faster, lose focus quickly, and start doing too many things at once, but not learning any of them properly. So multitasking as a concept is extremely glamorized in our society, but it's not a healthy habit. Not a healthy habit, particularly when it comes to actually doing, studies per se, or doing any work that requires my full attention. If my attention is distracted, it is really going to show up in my performance. There is going to be a dip in my final performance. So the idea per se is to function with a life level of stress that is life enhancing, not life threatening in nature. 70% of students report high exam anxiety, and these are all the students jinka screen time will average for 7+ hours per day for these teens. Okay, I will also show you a slide wherein it talks about the recommended screen time usage for all the children, so probably you can also have a look at that. Techno stress is again a very very important concept that has been come out lately. I think last 2-3 years, so this is a new concept that has come out known as techno stress, which is the pervasive use of digital platforms along with a large volume of engaging and interactive content being shared on these platforms, which can cause digital overload. Okay, so techno stress is a byproduct of digital overload. Okay, so digital overload refers to excessive exposure to digital platforms as users constantly consume, create, share content and specialize on these platforms. This is a very very recent research that we found out in 2023, right? So if you can see again, 2020 there was a very interesting research that happened wherein a series of academic studies have reported a range of diminished psychological functioning caused by digital overload. Okay, when you talk about the mental health impact or the psychological impacts that digital overload has on these children, there is loneliness, anxiety, fatigue, sleep deprivation and attentional deficit. Academic work will tend to take a back seat, adversely affecting the performance. Why? Because they are so glued to the screen, they don't have any real friends. You might see the concept of online friends coming way too prevalent when PUBG was in the when PUBG was like a fad in the country. You had seen a lot of kids had stopped socializing and they had friends in the online game itself, right? Like I had this one patient I used to see who had made like this entire multiverse of friends inside the PUBG game only, and he forgot to eat, he forgot to sleep, stopped going to school, increased absenteeism, all these things. I'm sure all of you must have also faced it with children, for the ones who are teaching. Now, how do you understand that you're actually digitally overloaded? You cannot focus for 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes. You need your phone while you're studying. You will keep on scrolling without purpose, koi kaam nahi, but we are still scrolling. We will feel restless without a screen. You have to sleep, but you will feel tired. Even when you wake up in the morning, you will not be very well rested. There is going to be anxiety when you are offline. Okay, this is primarily about how you can actually understand that you are digitally overloaded. What can be actually done? Okay, what can be actually done to actually beat this techno stress or to beat this digital overload? First 30 minutes after waking up, if you can, do not use your phones. That would be really nice if it is something that can be done. Last 45 minutes before you go to sleep, try not using your phone. 1 screen free hour daily. Okay, let's say if you're using your phone from 2 hours in a day, the third hour has to be a screen free hour. Use one device while you are studying. If you can, probably switch on your phone to your night mode after 8 p.m. That would be lovely. If not, that sounds very ideal, but probably by 9:30 p.m. night mode on. No phone while you are sleeping. The phone should not be on your side while you are sleeping. This is about your student digital reset rules. Okay. You can probably take this as a small challenge for yourself. It's like a 7-day challenge I tried to create. No phone at your meals on day 1. Day 2, 1 no screen hour. Day 3, you could probably journal instead of scroll. Day 4, you can take a walk without your phone. On the 5th day, you can sleep without your phone near the bed. Day 6, family no screen hour. Day 7, you can reflect and reset. Okay, it's like a small micro challenge you can take up for yourself. This is primarily for students. Okay, moving on. This is again very very important because we have to also understand that children model on parents' behaviors. Accountability will come from the home first, right? Children will copy the behavior they see in their parents. So if they are seeing that parent is saying ki phone mat chalao, parent is saying don't use the phone, but parent is always on the phone, parent is saying phone mat chalao, that's not going to work, right? That is not going to work for the child, because regulation of emotions, or whatever is actually happening, whatever the parent is actually explaining to the child, it just cannot be words. As we say that action speaks louder than words, it has to be manifested, translated in the action of the parent itself, right? This attention or probably spending time with the child minus phone hours. I'm sure a lot of parents must be doing it, but then again, it's important for me to reiterate this concept that boundaries per se are learned, right? And this addiction with the phone, that has to be actually normalized, that has to be removed. Overstimulation, because if I'm sure all of you guys said that your day would be extremely relaxed because we are so overstimulated by our phone, right? Because there are so many tabs open, we do not know how to connect with each other one on one, right? Let's say if we're sitting and meeting our friend at some cafe for 10 minutes, we will speak to the friend and then we'll just go back to scrolling on Instagram or using our phones. And then probably so there is going to be a multitasking that is happening over there also. That is again overstimulation. Okay, children don't do what we say, they do what we scroll. Okay, so again, becomes very important for parents also to be able to practice this digital reality check. What can be done at home? Probably no phones during meals, or no phones while you're in the bedroom at night. Shared screen free time, actually connecting with each other one on one, connecting with your child one on one. Probably having a common charging station. You can have tech free conversations, you can have weekend detox blocks. Okay, so like this entire weekend you go out on a family trip and don't probably use your phones for the entire day, right? Friday night you go on that trip, and Sunday night probably you start using your phone. So the entire Saturday, entire Sunday, you have that phone free or laptop free time with your child, with your parent, as in with your family members. That really really helps you restructure your entire nervous system. It really helps you reboot your nervous system in a position that it becomes really really and it becomes extremely stimulating, it is extremely satisfying. If like you guys already mentioned, it's going to be a really real relaxing environment or relaxing aura that you create. It definitely is something that can happen. And all of these things are really doable also. It is extremely practical, extremely doable in nature also, right? Again, digital overload in classroom, how do you think it might actually manifest for teachers in classrooms? You might see these kids might have very reduced attention span. You will see they get really angry. There will be a lot of reduced frustration tolerance. They will be hyper stimulated, they will be pacing up and down the space. They will be very aggressive. They might probably not be in a position to have conversations with each other, right? There will be a lot of cognitive overload, cognitive fatigue, and they will not be in a position to probably consolidate concepts. Why? Because they are so glued to the phone, they are so overly stimulated, it becomes difficult for them to be able to de-escalate from that situation, right? This is how it can sort of manifest in terms of the child's behavior in the classroom. Digital learning versus digital overload, this is all something important that you have to understand the difference between these two concepts. Digital learning is a tool. Using smart boards in class is a tool. Only using smart boards in class but not doing the lecture method is dependency, right? Learning is again using it as an engagement, but if there is overload, there is hyper stimulation that happens, right? Probably what can teachers do? You can probably create these classroom offs, that classroom norms in class, that if you are teaching something, devices have to be off during those key lessons. I'm sure these students don't carry phones in the classroom, but a lot of schools do allow. A lot of CBSE schools, at least a place where I am, do allow kids to bring phones to their classroom because they're traveling alone. So while they are in the class, these devices have to be off. You have to teach them this balance. This 20-20-20 I rule is basically a very very powerful technique, again, wherein you help this child de-escalate or remove themselves from the screen, look 20 meters away for a 20-second time span, right? So this is something that you can actually do with your children in class. So it's a eye rule ritual which also helps them protect their eyes. Blending learning, again, audio-visual methods, so you can actually blend your learning, use digital tools with hands-on activities in class. Device parking, extremely important. You can have designated bins that all of the students will submit their phones before they start their class. I'm sure must be doing it because we practice it in our university. So I'm sure a lot of people must be doing it in other educational institutions as well. So timed access, 15-minute screen break, probably if you give them some assignment which requires them to probably read a research paper and then actually do it, or probably use modulated, regulated use of AI if that is being done. So just probably give them the phone for 15 minutes, help them say that, okay, you can have this phone for 15 minutes, use the assignment or take out the pointers using these 15 minutes and then submit the phone back, right? Probably again using healthy digital habits, like we're having this webinar, we can also have something like that for the children to be able to understand what kind of psychological, emotional and physical impacts it might have on their bodies, so that they are able to take this situation a little bit easily and then understand this is not just for talks, this is something that actually happens in the body and the brain, right? Again, this is also something that I came across very, very interesting. There is also tech that helps you disconnect, right? A lot of times you might see that Android, iOS phones also have these screen locking systems. There are certain app blockers that are available, that after this time you cannot really open that app until the next day, right? So our aim over here is not to reject digital learning, but to help us use it mindfully, not let tech use us, but we have to use tech, right? So these are certain examples of certain apps. App time, digital well-being, turning app block. You can just have a look at it and use it for your well-being. The last thing is, this is the recommended screen time usage. Screen time for kids is 0 to 2 years, just over 1 hour a day. Screen time for kids 2 to 4 years, over 2 hours a day. Average screen time for kids aged 5 to 8, almost 3.5 hours a day. Average screen time for tweens aged 8 to 12, 5.5 hours. Average screen time for teens, 8.5 hours a day. This is only this includes children who are probably using tech for online classes. Okay, it's not like that you go to school and you come back home and use your phones for 8 hours. That's not what I'm trying to say over here. But then this is from the online class system and everything. Recommended screen time usage for adults, there is no designated timeline, or there is no designated average screen time for adults per se, because adults per se are considered to be the mature lot who are sort of responsible for themselves. But then if we can limit it to 5 to 6 hours a day, I think that would be good. That brings me to the end of my presentation with this one beautiful quote: before we raise toppers, let's raise whole humans, because no exam, no mark and no screen is worth a broken nervous system. Thank you so much for your patient listening. I now invite questions, and yes, I hope it was somewhat enriching for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anantika. That was wow. That was a wonderful session, I must say. I am sure everyone who's attending this session would agree to the fact that Anantika was, she covered almost every aspect of how we can manage our digital overload and how we can manage our exam pressure. And Anantika, thank you very much for this wonderful session. So one thing is very, very clear, Anantika. We all were aware, we very much acknowledge as a company, Edushire, because working for schools and typically for teenage students, we always knew that adding for the mental health program, adding students as well as parents and teachers is as important as designing this for only for the students, because till the time we all each I would say a factor of this ecosystem which we are creating for these teenage students is not addressed correctly with the right approach, that we all have and acknowledgement that we all have our own fixes. Mm-hmm. It is not only an effort which should come from the student side. Mm-hmm. It should, there something is coming from the teacher's side, something is coming from the parent side. So overall, as a society, we need to create this ecosystem which has to work for these students, and we need to make things better for them in their teenage typically. So yes, one quick information here before moving on to the Q&A. We have many people who are putting their questions, some of the video chats also. Please raise your hands, the people who are willing to come on screen and ask their questions. I would mention that, Anantika, and for everyone else here, we are coming up with some more very crucial topics which we are going to cover for these master classes. I would mention here like bullying, generational gap, childhood traumas, low self esteem, proper sleep habits, and family and parental gap.
These
So
are
we
wonderful topics.
Yeah, so we as a company are trying our best to connect with these students with the solutions and the problems which maybe they don't even acknowledge that are the problems. So does the parents and the educators. So please join us for these some very upcoming important sessions which we are going to come up with. We would I think you can find these, the links of our social media platforms where you can connect us with us on LinkedIn or on Instagram. You can also find the recording of these master classes on our YouTube channel. So please find the links of our YouTube channel, our LinkedIn platform, and Instagram, and our website on the chat box. So if you want to connect with Dr. Anantika for for a one-on-one session, we would also help you to reach out to Dr. Anantika. We would connect you with Dr. Anantika. Please drop your questions to us, your queries to us. Drop your emailers to us. We would try to help you with the best way we can. We would drop uh, Dr. Anantika's what do you say information, where how you can reach out to Dr. Anantika. You can also reach out to her through LinkedIn. So please try to reach out with, in case if you think that there are some questions, some topics which are important and we are not mentioned here. You can suggest what topics we can cover. Also, we're coming up some very important boot camps, not only for the students, for the parents, for the training sessions for the teachers. So do follow us for all this information. We are connecting with some of the very I would say big institutions of repute in India and internationally for these workshops, master classes, and boot camps. And we are announcing shortly these boot camps and master classes and workshops for students, majorly in the month of May, June, July, and international boot camps in the month of August and September. Please follow us for this information. Yes, Dr. Anantika, let's move to the Q&A now. Thank you for this beautiful session once again.
Thank you so much. Okay.
So, would you like to read?
Come on cue?
Yeah. Okay. So, should I read this first question from Mr.
Yes, pick up.
Mr. Devansh Yadav is saying, Jai Hind. Okay. So I'm having a difficult situation, like I'm excellent in co-curricular activities and sports, but I cannot do my academics, and for parents, academics is the first thing that students want.
Yeah.
What do you say, Anantika?
Okay. So if you say that you are excellent in academic co-curricular activities, I am so happy to hear that. But the thing is that it is unfortunate that this is happening. Probably speaking to your parents about it, if you have a counselor in school, speaking to them about it, helping your parents connect to them, that could be a good idea. In also helping your parents understand that you cannot really dictate, as in you cannot let academics dictate your entire identity. And if you say that you're good at it, definitely you must be doing wonders, you must be doing great work with your co-curricular activities. Probably also helping your parents understand that there could also be a future with your co-curricular activities. That is something that probably your parents might be having a little difficult time to understand, right? So probably helping getting some professional help over here to help your parents understand that it cannot just Academics cannot be the only thing to help you dictate your identity, or it's not the only way to be successful in life, right? So probably that is something that if your parents are in a position to understand, if something like that can happen, that would really be helpful, because at the end of the day, your mental health is of maximum importance here, and whatever makes you the happiest, you should definitely be able to do that. So helping your parents understand that, I think that would be a good idea. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Devai, for that question. Thank you, Dr. Anantika, for the answer. I will move to the next question. This is Asmita Jadhav. And she's asking, ma'am, how to develop the habit of time management, because sometimes we suddenly have to go out, due to which we cannot complete the work.
Right.
So, all right. So the time management, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Ashmita, if you could just tell me, you are a student, a teacher, a parent.
That's what I was trying to understand.
I would
looks like a student. Yeah.
Okay, so if you talk about time management in terms of your, if from the student perspective, I helped you create the planner, right? That is something that you can actually incorporate in your daily life. I get it that sometimes you might have certain unexpected situations wherein you might have to go out, probably then coming back and seeing how you can manage up for the lost time. So prioritizing is something that is extremely important, that would really help you, that what at this point in time is the most important for me. If I have like 5 things lined up for me, I can just select the 2 most important things, do those, try to give my entire attention to those 2 things, and then probably jump to the third one, which is probably might not be very, very important at that point in time. Okay, so trying to also understand ki is point पर at this point in time what is most important for me, chunking that work, prioritizing that work, that would really help. I think that if that helps you answer your question, right?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, the next question is coming from I think looks like an educator or maybe a parent, Anantika. What she's saying, that if a student is failing in a subject again and again, and as a parent, how this can be helped.
Right. So if this is happening, that a student is failing in all his subjects, if you say, right, probably also helping understand, I think IQ tests over here would be a good idea, to be able to understand that is the child at their level mentally. If you, so there are 2 aspects that you have to consider over here. One is the cognitive ability of the child. If the child is actually in a position to understand what might be happening in class, that is number 1. Second, it could be that you might, if this is a scenario, if you are able to see that the child is able to verbally say out everything, they are able to grasp the concepts, but they are not able to write, which is why they are failing. There could be a probability of any specific learning disability over here, which you will have to rule out again with the help of a professional person. So you also have to understand that if the child is able to grasp the concept, that means the IQ is okay. If the child is able to verbally answer your questions, that means the IQ is okay, just that they are having difficulty writing. That brings you to the point that, okay, there might be problems with just writing or spellings or mathematics. Okay, so if that is happening, probably helping them get tested for specific learning disability. If specific learning disability is also ruled out, you also have to notice if there are any other distractions in the child's environment which might not be helping them, or which might be detrimental in helping them not be able to study, right? So it cannot be just a very 2 plus 2 kind of an answer over here. It's a very multifactorial situation. What you are saying over here, there are various factors over here that you have to understand. Sitting down with your child, trying to understand if they actually want to study further or not, that is all something. One-on-one having conversation with your children is of utmost importance. That will help you open a lot of doors. Probably the child is just not interested. Probably it could be they might be getting bullied in school, since that's why they don't want to go to school. A lot of factors over here might be at play, which you can probably just sit with the child and have a conversation one-on-one and see if that helps you get a clearer answer.
For the question and for the answer, Dr. Anantika. Now, the next question is coming from a parent or maybe an educator. He says, can you suggest anything for the slow learners? So the students who are slow learners, how can we
right.
them?
So if a child is a slow learner, you also have to see if this child is in an inclusive setup first, right? You have to first enroll them in a classroom which respects inclusive education. If that is happening, if the child is having an inclusive education setup available with them, having shadow teachers will help them, having special educators with them will help. And if you are saying that there is a problem of IQ because primarily slow learners is equated with having a lower IQ than average, over here you also have to understand that they are only capable of a certain level. Expecting them to do more than what they are capable of will set you up for disappointment, right? So if that is happening, giving them all the kinds of resources that they require, okay, that is a special educator, a shadow teacher, and a lot of time from the parent itself, right? All of these three things coupled together will really help the slow learner in a way that they can be helped, first thing. And second is not expecting them to get 80% marker in class, but then whatever it is capable, whatever the child per se is capable of doing, if we are able to do that, that would really help. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Now, there's a counselor, Dr. Anantika, Ms. Rashi Dikshit. She's saying if a student is good in his class performance but fails to perform in exams, so ultimately a low scorer. So how can we help such a student?
Right. So if a student is good in his class performance, is this class performance a verbal one or is this class performance a written one? If that is also, if the child is able to verbally perform well in class but is failing to perform in exams, so ultimately you do a low score, you again have to check if there is any kind of learning disability problem when child is having difficulty writing down. If that is not happening, it could also be all the exam anxiety related issues that I spoke to you about, right? Verbally he is okay, but then he is having difficulty writing down, then you have to definitely get this child tested for some kind of SLD, which might probably be the case over here, right? It is such a, so SLD per se is a very hidden disability, right? It's not something that actually comes out for a very long time. Parents and teachers are not able to actually understand that, okay, because they are doing well, they just equated that the child is non-serious. Okay, they will just equate it to the child is lazy, he doesn't want to write. The child is not able to write, that's the problem over here, right? So if this is happening, probably testing the child on SLD with a special educator or a counselor, that would really help you, right? If that is something that helps, I think that would be, yeah. He could also have exam phobia. It could be definitely that he has difficulty in sort of being able to actually understand or sit for exams, and all the exam anxiety symptoms that I spoke to you about might come up very, very prominently in this child, right?
Thank you, Ma'am Rashi, for your question. There's a very interesting question from another educator that the students are using AI. Ms. Bhavna is from APS school is saying that the students are using AI to do their homework, and how to help these students, because that's not the right way to do their homework. They would not learn anything.
Yeah. So we as teachers and the entire educator community have to come together to be able to help tackle this problem, because it's a very over encompassing problem that is plaguing the society right now. For this, what we can do, we have a lot of plagiarism apps available, right? We can upload those assignments or those homeworks on the Plag app, and if plagiarism is probably whatever rules you said, there could be plagiarism. So plagiarism is basically copying the work. So these plagiarism apps are able to understand and detect the percentage of AI that has been used, right? If 10%, 5% or 15% AI has been used, that is of manageable category. If beyond 15% is being used, then you can probably tell the students to sort of redo the assignment and get it back for you. So this is something that we can control as teachers by keeping these Plag apps with us, to be able to help these children that this is something that is not acceptable, right? Because creativity is completely being killed when it comes to actually seeing that they are using AI to do their homework and everything. It will definitely affect the studies, because they are not using their brain to actually do the homework, right? Earlier homeworks that required probably 1 hour, 2 hours to do, now they are getting done in 10 minutes. Why? Because AI, you just uploading the assignment and then it's giving you the entire framework of the answer. Children are not really studying anything. So probably plagiarism apps could be a good way to help you combat this situation. Yeah, Turnitin is a good app. It's a good plagiarism detecting app. Yeah.
Thank you for that question and the answer. So there's a student, Dr. Anantika, she's saying, I'm not able to read during the exams. I think many of the students are having the same problem, that they're not able to concentrate. Otherwise, they can do it, but typically during the exams, they're not able to concentrate on their studies.
Right.
So that's again the exam stress.
Right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it just comes from exam anxiety.
So how it can be helped actually?
Right. I think when students are seeing this, it could be a good way to probably also connecting as a peer community. You guys could also connect with each other, trying to support each other through this time. That is one thing that can be done, that you also have to understand that you are not alone in this. Right? When you do say this, that I am not able to concentrate, probably also understanding the pressures that I spoke to you guys about, wherein we did understand where is this pressure actually coming from. Is it some kind of expectation that I have laid on myself? Is it some kind of expectation my parents have from me or my teachers have from me? Right? So probably if I'm able to pinpoint the source of the pressure, that will also help me navigate the situation in a little better manner. Okay. And if you're saying that I am not able to concentrate, definitely it is, you are sort of having some kind of afterthoughts related to the exam. So you have to fight this what if fear. Right? What if I fail? What if I don't do well? What if I don't succeed? What if I don't have a guide? This what if thinking has to be changed. So speaking to your teachers, speaking to your peers, speaking to your parents about what you are actually feeling, and all the strategies I spoke to you about in terms of, helping you chunk the syllabus, break it down into small parts, not making your exams your entire life. These are certain small practical tips that you can actually use, which might actually help you, just sail through the exam situation in a little better manner.
For your question, Radha, I hope you got the answer. I'm willing to take a few video questions here. This is the last question because we are about time here. Yeah. So, Dr. Anantika, we are taking the last question here. Ms. Bhavna is asking, can high involvement in sports affect a child's attention span or interest in studies?
Definitely, because if the child is spending so much time in sports per se, they are definitely draining their entire energy and will not be able to put in as much effort as a child who is probably not involved in sports would, right? And when you say high involvement if the child is good in sports, probably helping them go ahead in sports only, if that is an option, if that is something that can be allowed to this child, because if they are involved, that also means they are interested, and if they are interested, that means they are doing well in it, right? So if this is happening, and if when you talk about, so there are two questions that you have asked here. Attention span is one thing, interest is something else, right? Interest, if they are highly involved in sport, that means they're interested in sports. Attention span will get sort of affected because they are not interested in studies, right? So it's like an entire loop that is per se getting created over here. And if this child is doing good in sports, probably helping them continue, letting them continue in sports would also be a good idea, if that is something that works and resonates with you.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Bhavna. Thank you, Dr. Anantika. Please raise your hands for the video questions if you're interested. This one more question I'm taking here, Dr. Anantika. As a teacher, many parents ask that my child learns verbally and has written practice, but in exam not able to perform as required. So they learn better verbally. That is what she's trying to say, but not performing. That learning is not
translated into
not showing in the exam.
Right.
So how to help such students?
So probably helping them practice writing would also be a good idea. A lot of children, because in classrooms is generally the lecture method that is happening, they are rote memorizing the syllabus, they are learning everything verbally. The practice of writing has also diminished. Probably helping them, if in situations like this you are seeing that the child's IQ is okay, they don't have any other problem, they are able to verbally learn everything, exam if they are not able to perform, ho sakta hai that it might be that they might be having this sense of urgency of time, and I only have 3 hours. They might not be able to time their answers properly, right? So in situations like this, helping them, giving them like mock answer papers could help. Specifically in board exams or things like that, you already have a set pattern that you will get 3 hours. This is the pattern of the paper. Practice writing as in previous year questions. That is something that you can do, right? So probably helping those students in that manner might be helpful. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. So this was the last question of this evening. We have a quick poll here. I would request you all to please participate in this poll. This would help us to bring you better sessions and help you with more questions you may have in your mind. Dr. Anantika, I would also request you to please give us a final thought for the evening, that how these students who are going to appear for the upcoming board exams can be in the best of their mental health and can perform without pressure, can perform.
Yeah, so firstly, I wish all the students who are sitting for this exam and all the very best. You are going to nail these exams, you take it from me. And if you had to probably take it as a final word, you can just take these exams one day at a time. Okay, these exams are definitely, they will help you in getting into good colleges or having a good career, but not letting these exams become your entire identity. It is not worth it. You take it from me. And this I'm saying from the bottom of my heart, this is not something that is going to matter in 5 years time. Okay, but that does not mean that you take this casually. This is something that you are supposed to do, and you are going to do good, but you don't let it affect your entire timeline. Don't let it affect your entire mental health. Don't let it become your entire identity. You are much more than these exams. And I wish you all the very best. I'm sure this session helped you in terms of all the practical tips that I gave you. So probably incorporating those, it would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Dr. Anantika, for this lovely session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are coming with many such more masterclasses. Anybody who wants to connect with Dr. Anantika for some personal consultation, we would love to help them. Please drop your queries to us, or you can connect with Dr. Anantika on LinkedIn. And we are coming with some very exciting boot camps, national and international masterclasses and workshops in coming months. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us. And please follow us on YouTube to get the latest information of our upcoming programs. Thank you, Dr.